Hello, and welcome to the very first video podcast from WoodworkersResource.com. I'm your host, Craig Stevens. Thanks for checking us out. What I wanted to do in this very first introductory video podcast is to cover two topics. First, why am I doing this? Why woodworking video podcast? And the second topic, what you're likely to see in the weeks and months to come on this video podcast. So, first question, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? I don't know. As you can see, I love everything to do with woodworking. Well, that's not really true. Okay, all kidding aside, I have been passionately pursuing learning all that I can about this craft for the past 10 years, and I've really only scratched the surface. But there is one thing that I have definitely learned, and that is there are better ways than others of learning this craft. And probably the most readily available medium that we as woodworkers have to learn from is through books and magazines. And I love books and magazines, and I have the bookcases crammed full of them to prove it. But there is one drawback to books and magazines. The lines of communication are really one-sided. What if you get stuck? What if you have a comment or want to voice a concern or leave some feedback or just want to learn more about the subject? Where do you go? Well, some of these have ways of communicating, but in a timely manner, they really fall short. So, well, that being said, probably the best way to learn this craft is at the workbench of a master.
Oh, great woodworking master, what pearls of wisdom do you have for us today?
Grasshopper! You must be patient in your search for wisdom in this craft. You must learn the basics first. You must learn wipe on, wipe off, wipe on, wipe off.
Is this the new finishing technique that you have come up with?
Actually, no. It's how I'd like my truck washed. Would you mind? Okay, in all seriousness though, if you have the chance to go to a woodworking school and take some classes, I highly recommend that you do this. You will learn more in the shortest amount of time, really, than any other way possible. But what if you don't live relatively close to a woodworking school? What about the time away from work or other responsibilities that you have? This doesn't even begin to approach the money subject because these classes can be expensive. Well, with all that being said, what's another option to us? Well, obviously video is a great way to learn woodworking, but not just video. Video in combination with the internet. By putting this video podcast up on my website at WoodworkersResource.com, you can view them at your convenience. But another great advantage that the internet offers is the fact that we'll have a spot for you to ask questions, leave feedback, and comments. And by doing that, we can have an open line of communication. And really, that's a much better way of learning than just video alone. And that's really why I'm doing this. Now let's talk about what you're likely to see on this video podcast in the weeks and months to come. I've come up with 5 different categories of subjects that I think interest all woodworkers. The first is the things that go into setting up a shop and maintaining it. This includes a wide variety of subjects. Everything from what tools do you need to first get started? Once you have those tools, how do you set them up and maintain them so that they work properly for you? This area is also going to include things like shop lighting, heating, and the wiring of the shop. Also, shop furniture, a place to store our things, and also the sharpening of tools. All these things are vital in getting the most out of your time in the shop. And that's our first category. The second category that we'll look at is jigs and fixtures. This is a favorite of mine, as it probably is for most woodworkers. I don't think I have ever built a piece of furniture where I've not had to use a jig that I've previously built or come across a situation where I've had to build another jig. This is how important jigs and fixtures are to building furniture. So we'll spend a lot of time on this category. The third category that I've come up with is tips and tricks. This is a category where we can all share our knowledge. If you've come up with a cool tip or trick that's helped you solve a problem that you've run up against, email it to us at contact@woodworkersresource.com. I'll put the ones that I come up with, and we can share and learn together. The fourth category that we'll look at is finishing techniques. We'll look at everything from very simple oil finishes all the way to the more complex multi-step finishing processes. You know, we spend a lot of time in the actual building of our pieces of furniture, from the designing of it, the gathering of materials, to the actual building of the piece of furniture. These three areas can take up the majority of our shop time. Usually by the time it gets to finishing the project, we're just ready to get it done. We want the piece in the house or out the door and be done with it. But in almost every circumstance, the finish is what makes the piece of furniture. So let's slow down, learn some good finishing processes, and be proud of the piece of furniture that we're making. Now we're up to our fifth category. And this happens to be an area that I am very passionate about. And I'm hoping that more woodworkers will be as well. And that is in teaching kids the craft of woodworking. You know, if you think about it, kids just aren't being exposed to woodworking these days. All across the country, woodworking programs are being yanked out of our school systems. So if a kid shows some interest in woodworking, where do they have to turn to? Well, to be perfectly honest with you, there's not a whole lot of options out there for them. And that's what I want these video segments to be used for, is in teaching kids the craft of woodworking. It'll just be me around the workbench, teaching how to use hand tools safely and properly to build some fun and useful projects. You know, I'll even be bringing my own kids in from time to time to help out with these projects as well. I have 3 kids of my own. Katie, who you've already met in this video, is 10. Nick is 8, and Jack is 3. All 3 of my kids love to be in the shop with Daddy building stuff. In fact, some of the best bonding times that we've had have occurred in the shop. And that's what I want you to experience as well. So use these videos to teach a child in your life woodworking, because they'll get a lot more out of this than simply learning some woodworking skills. They'll get more time with you, which is ultimately what they want anyway. So hopefully you have a better understanding now of what our video podcast is all about. But also, let me encourage you to go to our website, www.woodworkersresource.com, for even more information on woodworking, no matter what skill level you are. Obviously, this is also where you'll find our future video podcasts put up as well. We also have a section called Featured Woodworkers. This is where we go out and interview amateur and professional woodworkers alike. We get in their shop, get in their head, and find out what motivates them in this craft. So check that out, it's pretty cool. Also, while you're there, sign up for our free monthly newsletter. In our newsletter, you'll find all things related to woodworking. Things like tips and techniques, new tools and innovations to the woodworking industry, and also be the first to see who our featured woodworker will be for that month. We'd also love to see what you're working on in your shop. So send us some pictures and we'll put those in the newsletter as well. So sign up today. That's it for this episode of WoodworkersResource.com video podcast. If you have any questions or comments, email them to us at contact@woodworkersresource.com. So until next time, get in the shop and make some sawdust. With the internet. By putting these videos up on my internet. It's mine. I'm Al Gore. Thanks. Been there.
Oh, great grasshopper, what pearls of wisdom.
I'm not the grasshopper. You're the grasshopper.
Sorry.